one of the issues that we have in getting the numbers right is that at the end of last budget season, while the Democrats in running the General Assembly and the governor said that they spent $19 billion, they really spent $20.5 billion because they had $1.5 billion of federal money, federal stimulus money, one time that they were spending. They didn't cut any services, they just spent the extra money, they just didn't spend their own money. This is the equivalent of your children coming to you and saying, Dad, I need to borrow 15 bucks, please don't pay attention to the fact that I'm actually going to spend it. And when you get done with all of that, when you include the federal spending and the temporary tax that expires, we were looking at the start of this year at a $3 billion shortfall. $20.5 billion of spending. Looking at existing revenues, we were expecting about $17.5 billion. $3 billion shortfall. The governor, when she came out with her budget, said, oh no, we have a $2.4 billion shortfall. And the rest of us kind of took that as, okay, well, $2.4 billion, that's less than 3, we're moving in the right direction. And when you took a look at the numbers, it was actually a $2 billion shortfall. She had included $400 million in spending as continuation that really wasn't there. She said this is mandatory, even though she was already including some mandatory spending in that original number. She had another $400 million. The reason why she did that is so that she could claim that she was cutting 72% of closing the budget gap over the next 2 years was going to come from spending cuts. And if you look at the literature on spending cuts and how you get yourself out of a deficit and debt situation, countries and states, the consensus is that about 75% of that budget reduction has to come from actual spending cuts. You make up the rest of the gap with maybe 25% tax increases, is what the literature generally says. Now, I think the literature misses out on the fact that you can do a lot more with more spending cuts. And when you take a look at the numbers, the reason why the governor did that is because she adds $400 million and then she gets to claim $400 million more in cuts. It's a great little trick, sleight of hand there. When you look at the actual shortfall of $1 billion, the governor is making up that shortfall. Well, it's $2 billion the first year. 54% of that is covered by extending the sales tax.